All right, man. So go ahead and tell the people that don't know who you already are a little bit about you.
My name is Honorable Sean Brown, also known as X Rated. The charge that sent me into prison was first they gave me an open count of murder, me along with four others, five of us total. Open count of gun murder that morphed into gang related homicide. Uh, so I eventually ended up with first degree murder, gang related homicide enhancement, and use of a firearm. Those were my commitment charges.
Yeah. And I already know your story, and a lot of people already do. And if you want to know more about the whole story, I mean, you can Google it, whatever. It's all out there. But I mean, you went to prison for how long, man? Behind this shit?
I was sentenced to 31 to life, and I gave them 26 years, 5 months, and 26 days out of that 31.
That's a damn stretch. 26 years, man. Okay, so how old were you exactly going in?
I was 17 years old when I was arrested. Fought the case for 4 years and was convicted when I was 21 and sent off to do my term.
I mean, were you expecting to get that much time? Were you expecting to beat it? What was going through your head when you got all that damn time, man?
During my time fighting the case, uh, I spent the majority of that in the high security pod where everybody was level. They call it 300 pods. So in the Sacramento County Jail, they have a level pod 1, pod 2, pod 3, and they usually it goes up by the severity of your charges. They don't throw the drunk driver in there with everybody. They'll put him with the other drunk drivers and
Yeah,
traffic
yeah,
crimes and whatever. If you got violent felonies, then you're gonna be in the tank with people with violent felonies and up. And so I was in 300 pod with people either going to prison or coming home with parole holds or whatever. And so everybody told me, "Are you going to the pen? You could just bank on it this time to get ready." You know what I mean? So I was already just working out, writing songs, and just like whatever, getting ready for prison, even on the build up to my trial. I was mentally prepared for it, and I wasn't surprised. And this is 1992 to 1990, late 95, at a time in America where, Tupac was on trial, Snoop Dogg had been on trial, Mike Tyson had been on trial, OJ was
yeah,
on trial. So I kind of had an understanding of the concept and the ramifications. The news media was making it real clear for me. So I was like, all right, I'm going to the pen for sure. And what they wanted from me to not go to the pen, I wasn't willing to give them.
yeah, yeah. Uh, I mean, what was it like, man? I mean, were you treated any different because you're a rapper or what?
Unequivocally, well, my whole time in the county jail, I pretty much I write about this in my book. I lived in a perpetual state of hedonism because I didn't nothing else mattered to me except for small pleasures and immediate enjoyment. So I'm you know I'm X-rated. So if I want something to eat, it's gonna be some Pizza Hut and some Burger King and that thing. You know what I mean? And I kind of
Yeah,
so I was, and it's interesting that I was so focused on things like that. That's small, but that's what you do when survival. You have to live your life still. You still have to survive. You still have to exist. So in my ignorance, in my childish ignorance, I kind of focused on stuff like that. So I'll pay for, whoever to bring me whatever, so I could
yeah,
just enjoy myself, and that's how I did my time mostly until my trial started.
yeah. How much money were you allowed to get up in that jank, man? Legally.
Yeah, exactly. Legally,
Legally,
legally.
because I know some places over here they let you like 200, and some places it's like 700. I mean, were you allowed to just have racks in your account or what?
Yeah, you could have racks in your account, but you could only spend a certain amount on canteen
Yeah,
unless you sent money to other people to pile stuff up. But I had other means. I was blessed. You know what I mean? I'm in my hometown, and cops listen to hip hop too. You know what I mean? So
yeah, 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 yeah.
they pretty much.
You're chilling. You're chilling,
I
man.
was chilling. They gave me whatever I wanted.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That must be nice, man. So you didn't have no worries in Sacktown, huh?
Uh, you know, I If I had any, I was too uneducated to be aware that I should have had some. I had
Yeah,
worries that were larger than my education at that time. At that point, I was it was all about zoom zooms, wham whams, chilling, visits, phone,
yeah,
the immediate pleasures. That was all I was focused on. But I definitely have some larger problems waiting for me that I was unaware of in my childish ignorance.
yeah, yeah, yeah. All right, man. Well, you're going to the penitentiary. Is someone giving you a little bit of the game before you go in there in county, or I mean, did someone teach you the ropes and all of that already, like out in the streets? You know, were you ready for the penitentiary?
I think I got the game. I got the game while I was doing my time. While I
Yeah,
was doing it, my big homies would come and they like, hey, I just left this yard. You a large topic of conversation. I just left this yard. You a large topic of conversation. The homies waiting for you, and everybody waiting for you. So it's gonna be when you get there, you're gonna get there. It's gonna be a splash. So be prepared. So I was getting that for 3 or 4 years. Like, you know, is you coming. So it's like being a college football player who was highly recruited, and
yeah,
and almost everybody know who gonna have the first round pick. So it's like the other teams already on some. You ain't coming to our division to do no damage. We gonna be on you, and then your team is like, we about to be the shit next year.
yeah, yeah,
That's
yeah,
kind of how it was. My homies felt like when you get here, it's on.
yeah. That's crazy, man. So they just threw you in GP. I know they got all kinds of different, different areas. They got GP, PC, or whatever, S and Y. They got like 7 different types of things. I mean, did they just throw you into regular GP even with your status?
Yeah, I went. They put me in regular GP from the moment they put the handcuffs on me. So I went. They threw me with everybody. But, that was whatever. I was an active gang member. Psychologically, that was what it was anyway for me. So I did all my juvenile hall time, all my time in the Sacramento County Jail, and then all my time at the reception center. I just was with everybody else. In the state of California, in prison, there was no such thing as S and Y. It didn't exist. This is 1996 by the time
Oh
I.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
So there was literally no such thing as S and Y, and there was one protective housing unit in the state of California that's notoriously difficult to get in, where Charles Manson was. And that's a whole other level of the ball game for somebody to be put there. I certainly didn't want to be put there. And, I'm an active gang member. You asked me my classification. I'm convicted of gang related crime 18622. I've already been identified. So it ain't like I had to say, hey, I'm a member of the Guard Block
yeah,
Crips. I was inherent in my case. So
yeah,
it was what it was. I was like, put me wherever anybody else is at. That was how I felt. They mentioned it to me after reception center. They actually told me about New Folsom A facility. So they have back then, and they still do. A lot of people act like it's not true, and I'm kind of like a myth buster at this point. I
yeah,
like to I like to blow these concepts up because all these cats came home from prison and they want stripes for having been a prisoner. And I can't tell you how much I disagree with that at this point as a grown man with everything I've learned. But people want to be considered hard for going to prison, not for
of
surviving
course.
prison. And I'm
Yeah,
saying my brothers that have done time, I'm proud of them for surviving it and making something out of it. As such as yourself, like to build a platform where you can have these conversations. This is what we could be proud of, the survival,
yeah, for
not proud
sure.
of having been in the experience itself. So one of those things in the state of California, they had what we call soft yards, and everybody knew they existed, and they didn't necessarily have a title for what they were. But like New Folsom Sea Yard was a soft yard. It's a general population yard, in my opinion, that is not even active, where everybody is there really trying to chill. But they all gang in gangs, they all criminals, they with the shit, still. But no, there's nobody trying to politic on the yard. So
Yeah,
if you
it's
say
sweet, laid back.
it's laid back, and everybody want to hit a yard like that, but they not gonna say it because they want people to think they hardcore because they've been to prison, as
Yeah,
opposed to they was trying to get to New Folsom C facility or CMC East, where like CMC East, they got keys to the doors, bro. You know what I
What?
mean? Yeah, they
Key?
literally, you got a key to your cell
You got
door.
your own key?
Yeah, but it's
Stop playing, man.
classified as a general population yard. But everybody on that facility was trying to chill so they could stay there. Mule Creek A Yard used to be that way. Everybody wanted to stay there. It was Disneyland. You got canteen, better visits. You got Thursday, Friday visits, and Saturday and Sunday visits. Everybody wanted to get a bar of that. So I was conscious of that as time went on, where the big homies were telling me, but there really was no place specifically with a title to go. So when I got off the bus at Tracy, I had two experiences. Tracy is DVI, Northern California Reception Center in the Valley. So it's not the Bay Area has San Quentin. The Valley has DVI, Tracy, and then you have Wasco, Delano in Central California, and in Southern California we got Chino. So
Yeah.
these are different reception centers because California's huge. When I got to reception center, man, I had so many homies on the yard. I had a warped sense of expectation on what prison was because we was so deep. I was almost impossible to access anyway. It wasn't nothing to really say to me or even getting to me. All that was difficult to do because it was just we were everywhere. The homies were everywhere. And so being that the homies were everywhere, it was hard for me to understand that I was even in prison. Because we
Yeah.
wake up in the morning, I'm with the homies, we chilling, we working out, we go here, go to yard, go wherever we supposed to go, shut down the end of the day, make a meal. You know, we're not doing what I learned to be hard time, what time really was, because it's the transitional experience being in a reception center. It's
Yeah.
not a lot of reality involved in that in terms of this where you about to do your time. You have that sense of permanence. Like everybody knew they were leaving to go somewhere, even if it was just to transfer next door at Tracy itself to a dorm or a gym or a cell, whatever.
Yeah.
So when I left there, I actually went to New Folsom. Uh, my
Totally different.
Yeah, it's totally different. And my counselor, it's funny. I caught my case at 17. The judge actually made a statement about how my housing and the immediate attention. To get this, let me put this in proper context. When I went to trial, they literally had snipers on the roof so that when people were coming to the trial, they were afraid of gang violence and retaliation. So literally, the county placed officers on the roof, snipers, to be able to control any unrest and violence that occurred as a result of us going to trial. We got
Dang.
cameras in the courtroom. Every time I sneezed, there was a camera in my face. I mean, it was a wide open, exposed trial, and everybody where we were at viewed it as a high, sensationalized event. So the judge himself stated that it would be in the best interest for me to be placed somewhere where I could actually do my time because I was too popular and that I could have an either negative impact or too much influence in the environment. So this is in my transcripts where the judge is requesting that CDCR be conscious of where they put me. And so I read that. I'm like, I don't know what the fuck that means. But when I got to reception center, the first two choices they gave me were you going to Pelican Bay or New Folsom. And I remember laughing because it's like I'm a kid. You know, I'm 17 years old. I end up going to trial, 21 years old. And it's like any type of in the back of your mind where you think these people give a fuck about you, it was gone as soon as they said
Yeah.
that Pelican Bay or New Folsom. And I just looked at him. I was like, let's go. Let's go. Like, I don't give a fuck. Let's go.
Yeah.
That was how I felt. My response, my internal protection of my ego and my sense of what I'm afraid of or unafraid of, my psychology was then let's go then. You want to send me there? You want to throw me to the wolves? I ain't say that, but I thought it. Let's go then. Let's
Yeah.
go. And so that's how I left Tracy, headed to New Folsom with the psychology of let's go then. It is what it is. Let's go. I don't give a fuck. And so I step off the bus at New Folsom, and I immediately get hit with understanding the politics of the environment. We got the most miserable conditions I ever experienced in the history, my history in CDCR. There was a flood. Folsom Lake had flooded, and the yard flooded. The plumbing was out. It's just storming, so it's rain just pouring, and everywhere you look is just water. Literally in the tier, it's like 2 feet of water. In some of the cells, it was like a foot, 2 feet of water in a cell. The plumbing's not working. There had been a 165-man riot on the yard with the Southsiders and whites basically against everybody. And 3 people have been shot and killed by staff. 2 people have been stabbed to death. Like 40 people have been sliced and stabbed. And so this is the environment I entered.
Yeah,
Coming
that's
from
crazy.
this, yeah, it was mentally devastating. So I'm coming from Tracy, and that was what I experienced at New Folsom. I eventually go to my first committee because they can't even handle all of us processing this because they in this crisis mode. Like literally, put porta potties outside. They're coming and cuffing up men, hundreds of us, and taking us outside to use the porta potty and rotate us back into the building.
That's
So
crazy,
if you
man.
got to take a shit, any of that, that was how it had to happen. So most people resorted to using plastic bags, take a shit, bag that up, and then just take that out to the porta potty instead of having to actually use that porta potty after hundreds of men and not be able to clean it or nothing. And they taking us out in our boxers and t-shirts and shower shoes, and it's in the dead of winter. You know what I mean? It's like October, something like that, November when we out there. And so I learned a couple of things. One of them was my neighbor was the South Sider on this side. My neighbor on this side was a white. We had New Folsom State Prison on Bravo facility. This is one of the most hardcore prison yards in the world. Ain't no talking when it comes to Southsiders. Ain't no talking when it comes to whites. But my neighbor over here sent me a plastic bag and a kite to tell me how I'm gonna have to deal with the sink and toilet situation. I end up with a celly probably like 2 days later. So this guy sends me that over. My neighbor over here sent me coffee, sent me deodorant, tobacco on a string. I had to fish it. But it was so fucked up that the other races were helping each other, even on the main line, even
Yeah,
with
that's
all
crazy.
politics, even after a war, because that human aspect existed in that moment. Yeah, but that was how I actually got there. And so one of the things I experienced that where my education about the hypocrisy of prison started to kick in.
The hypocrisy, huh?
Hypocrisy is a hypocrisy involved in it. I uh I got a kite dropped on me. Somebody dropped a kite. This dude X-rated. He's a rapper. He's this. I get cuffed up. They take me to the program office. First time I ever been to a program office. So I'm sitting there and they're telling me, we've received confidential information. They call those 1030 CDCR 1030 stating that you are in danger of being assaulted. So now we have an obligation. Like, it don't matter. Like, okay, I'm a gang member. I'm X-rated. I'm always psychologically prepared for that. That's the reality of my life. That was the reality of my life on the streets. I was armed everywhere I went because I was always expecting to have combat and contact with a rival. That was natural. So that didn't impact me like, oh, they're like, I'm like, no shit.
Yeah.
And you know what I mean? Like, let's go. They put me in a hole. When somebody makes you a enemy, they can't house you on the same facility. So if somebody gives up confidential information against you, they remove you from the facility and put you in the ASEG to be able to investigate the truth of what somebody said. If they determine it's not true, you still have an enemy because this person gave the information and now is in jeopardy if you were
Yeah.
to return. So this is a tactic that they use to get you off a facility. This is how they get you, they remove you without having to actively pursue violence against you. And
Yeah.
this is environment supposed to be mainline, so gangster, but that's what they did to me. I end up in Aztec. It was a blessing. I end up in the cell with Whiskey from Santana Block. His brother's Turtle, a legendary Compton Crip, one of the kings, one of the founders of the neighborhood. And Whiskey laced my boots about everything. You know,
Yeah.
do your burpees. This is how you make your knives. This is how you do this. He gave me the game on everything. Sat back there for a couple of months and basically just worked out, chilled with the big homie, and listened to him tell me stories about how, you know, the foundation, the crib, how it was created, who created what it was like when he was coming up, and what it was like for him in prison
Yeah.
as somebody with great influence. So I'm finally sent from Aztec, both Whiskey and I, to New Folsom C facility, the coveted diamond of CDCR, where everybody wanted to go. One of them, especially being from Northern California, Sacramento, is I guess 15 minutes for my people to come visit me at New
Yeah,
Folsom.
that's perfect, huh?
Yeah, so like to think I want to leave New Folsom is insane. Like I literally could have somebody jump on a light rail and get off the light rail, take a shuttle, and be at the visit by the time I finish my shower. That's how close to home I was.
Yeah, that's nice.
It was very nice. But, you know, I go to yard and immediately it's just hate, 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 talk, 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 talk. This dude made this album. This dude said this dude. Everybody got rules and opinions about me that violate the tenets of what we supposed to and not supposed to be able to do. And the central reason why is I'm a rapper. So
Yeah.
the rapper, you don't have to follow the rules for the rapper, because you know it's just too much, I think, psychologically for people to have you in that environment where I'm on the news. We're in my hometown, so every time I went to court, I'm on the news. They watch. Every time I dropped the album, which I think I dropped 2 during that period of time, I'm on the news. They watch it. Magazine comes out, they got subscriptions. I'm on the tier. So I'm inescapable for these people. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think that bred a lot of hate. That bred a lot of hate. You the
Of
same
course,
way.
man. That shit brings hate, man. When you make a name for yourself, anything, man. More money brings more hate, you know?
It really does. But I'm gonna tell you, I was naive and I was shocked at that. I was surprised that that motherfuckers actually hated that I had established myself beyond just being a prisoner. It was like almost like some people felt like I had done something wrong by being bigger than just a gang member or prisoner. Like I
Yeah.
think I'm one of y'all. I think I'm us. You should be proud. So you have people who were proud, and you have people who felt like maybe it should be them because they think they can rap, or like, you, why do you deserve this or that, or you ain't this or you ain't that. And now ain't nobody telling me that though. But every time I turn around, so I'm getting a report. Hey man, this cat right here got a lot to say. So now I'm learning, investigate, confront. How many times am I supposed to do that before I realize that this is basically I'm being TMZ'd? There was no
Yeah.
TMZ yet, but I'm being TMZ'd on the yard, and I'm not conscious of that. They just talking like how they talk about other famous rappers. I'm listening to them talk about what they think about Tupac, and they do that in front of me, and I don't connect to that as a personal experience. That, oh, that's how they talk about me when I'm not standing here.
Yeah.
That I'm a subject of conversation beyond the scope of just what normal is. So it created a situation where it made it hard for any rivals for us to coexist, because it was always somebody saying, "Oh, y'all just gonna go for that? Y'all just gonna go for that?" They were constantly under pressure. Even people who didn't want to do shit were constantly under pressure to have to take some type of action, because their peers from other areas in California were putting pressure on them. And this is Northern California politics. This is Sacramento politics.
Yeah.
But you got people from other places who are putting pressure on
Yeah.
Sacramento members of their gang by title to take action. You got to do A, B, C, and D. And people didn't want to do that. We on a yard where everybody happy to be there. They got programs. They got, Niggas just working, making $4, and you usually get paid 7 cents an hour. They got joint venture programs where people making damn near minimum wage at their jobs.
Yeah.
Don't nobody want to lose all that, especially over fighting over me. So what would end up happening to me is they would drop a kite. They started systematically removing. First, they got rid of my big homie Barry Woods, who was one of the biggest obstacles to somebody reaching me. Barry was, he created 24th Street along. He was one of the co-founders, along with two other big homies. He was amazing when it came to hands, knees, feet, and elbows, and so there wasn't nothing to talk about when Barry was there, because Barry pushed politics on the Sacramento car is the Sacramento car. 916 is 916. Don't give a fuck where you from. If you from Sacramento, you from Sacramento. You want a mom. And so
Yeah.
that was how he pushed. I'm from Guard Block, California. I don't even give a fuck what Sacramento talking about, or 916 car, none of that. I'm from Guard GBC. I'm not from Sacramento. I'm from South Side, GBC, 24th Street. That's where I'm from. And I run with the Crips. I run with a Sacramento car. And so me and Barry had a lot of disputes over that. I think when he first started going to prison, the connection between Sacramento gang members and LA gang members, there was a disconnect because they perceived them as being less than.
Yeah.
Like y'all started up, what y'all doing gang banging up there, and the history not being long enough for it to have that respect. But by the time I got to prison, my homies have been a YA with these dudes and established their name and respect for Guard Block. My homies have been to prison, been on these yards, and we know these dudes. And so when I show up, you from Nutty Block or Santana Block, or you from anywhere in LA where my homies have some type of connection, that's who I rock with, and that's who I was with every day. And so that allowed me to have a certain degree of support that I don't think Barry was used to or aware of. It was an anomaly why that LA just gave a fuck about me. And that was the upside of being somebody who represented the way I represented and having the music I had, was that the homies from LA that represented Crip wasn't going for nothing. As long as I stood for myself, they stood for me too.
Yeah.
Especially in an environment that hadn't been gang banging. So you had a lot of OGs who got upset about that. Y'all ain't been gang banging on this yard for years. And the little homies show up and everybody want to be a gang banger. Now y'all want to gang bang. And so it was, okay, if we gang banging, we gang banging, everybody banging. If that's their business and they politics, then stay out of it. And so you had a situation where, in my humble opinion, LA Damus just never stayed out of the mix. They always put that pressure on Sacramento Damus to do something about me. And I think that created a situation where LA Chris was like, if we gang banging, we gang banging. If y'all get in it, we gonna get in it straight up. Because how y'all banging, that ain't your business. And so it just was always out of control. And because it was that political, instead of having conflict, they drop a kite on me. They write a kite and say, there's a knife in the kitchen. This is where it is. And it's meant for X-rated. It's going to be used on X-rated. They come get me. First, they go get Barry, crack Barry with some dope, remove him from the yard, drop the kite on him. And it's main line.
Yeah, that's crazy.
This is on the main line.
Yeah.
They take Barry off the yard, put him in the hole. He got a shoe turn coming. They drop a kite, say, there's a knife waiting for me. Instead of, they don't go search the kitchen. They don't go, the kitchen is connected to a building. I don't even live in this building. I literally live completely across the yard in a different building. We got our own satellite kitchen.
Yeah.
So I have zero access to this. I couldn't have put it there. And they didn't care who put it there. They just came to get me.
Yeah.
So it was, they come get me and throw me in the hole. And so now I'm in the hole with Barry and tell me that because of this circumstance, I can't go back to the yard. That's how they get rid of me. So now I got a confidential informant on the yard that is an enemy, and I can't return to a facility in my hometown where I'm supposed to do my time at him. If I was going to do it in any type of comfort with easy access to home, that was the place to do it. And that was how I understood the dirty politics that was going on that yard, on any, in my opinion, it became damn near everywhere. Are repeatedly telling on me. They repeatedly dropping kites on me. They repeatedly using nefarious, underhanded ass means to be able to get me off a facility, as opposed to engage in combat. And you know, it put a sour taste in my mouth as it related to everything I ever believed about the so-called G code, because it's like, why you gotta drop a kite and stay there and still pretend to be respected and still have people that accept it, and people they know they did it. They know they did it and they
Yeah.
accepted that. But I go to the hall so I left New Folsom. I sat in the hall for I don't know how many months, 3-4 months, and I got transferred to Salinas Valley.